Hello and welcome to Mediaweek. I'm Ingrid Willinge. Ahead on the show, Managing Director of the Daily Mail Australia, Peter Holder, joins us live in the studio for an update on how it's tracking since launch. Plus, 2UE set to broadcast its last ever bulletin this week before the merger with Macquarie Radio. But first, News Corp Australia Chief Executive Julian Clarke has joined the bosses of Google and Apple, among others, to face a Senate inquiry into tax avoidance this week. The company has called for Netflix to be subject to GST payments, while also dismissing claims it's avoiding tax, outlining its tax payments for the Commission.
Percentage, it was 35.8% of our accounting profit. In addition to that, we paid withholding tax of $124.8 million, so the total tax pay for us in those 5 years was $417.3 million. Now, in addition to that, of course, it's not corporate tax, but in addition to that, there's another $900 million over those 5 years of FBT, GST and payroll tax.
Meantime, Darren Davidson at The Australian says Fairfax has quietly corrected a story alleging News Corp siphoned off cash and shares from its Australian operation, which Fairfax said was virtually tax-free. News Corp Australia Chief Executive Julian Clarke denying the claims and calling on Fairfax for a correction when facing the inquiry this week.
You would have been hiding under a rock if you hadn't been aware that we have, as a company, been subjected to what I consider to be an outright attack by Fairfax in recent days. And such quotes as headline breathlessly said on Monday in the Sydney Morning Herald.
They're still at it. I'm just looking at it now.
Yeah, well, no doubt they are. But the headline there was how Murdoch's US empire siphoned off $4.5 billion virtually tax-free. And then goes on to say, as a result of that, that $1 billion was lost to the Australian public purse. The explanation that they've given to this claim is that somehow we avoided paying withholding tax on the dividends. Now, I'm assuming when we get to the questions and answers that you're going to be asking me for detail on that. But just in case you don't, let me say that these comments are either intentionally misleading or they don't have a clue about what they're talking about. And in the case of the author, I think it's a bit of both. We are, of course, demanding a correction, and we'll see whether that's forthcoming.
For more on all that, I'm joined in studio by co-host, editor and publisher of Mediaweek, James Manning. James, quite a bit of heat in those discussions this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've tracked over the years the argy-bargy that often goes on between Fairfax and News Corp over their sort of financial positions, their strategies, things like this. Looks like Fairfax may be taking it to a new level with the article last weekend. We heard Julian Clarke's defence there that they're not, avoiding their tax or they're paying what they should be. Lined to over $400 million, so a fair bit of money changing hands there between News Corp and the ATO. Will be interesting to see the follow-up if Fairfax goes with this story and actually does a follow-up what they had. And interesting too, the argy-bargy had with Senator Milne during that session this week too. She was talking about the profitability of the Australian, something we've covered on the show before too. And interesting, he didn't really go there, but he said, look, it's just part of the part of News Corp's overall offering. Yeah, look, it doesn't make a lot of money now, but he thinks it's an important part of their overall offering to the consumers in Australia. He said it plays an important part in public policy in Australia. But what he didn't talk about, what we've talked about, is their long-term sort of profit goals. So they do want to make money. He said if they had a choice between making a profit and a loss, they definitely want to make money. We've talked about their digital. Yeah, we've talked about their digital strategy, and long-term they think they can turn it into a profit deliverer.
All right. Well, let's take a look at something else. The Daily Mail launching its operations in Australia back in early 2014 and has since risen up the ranks when it comes to online ratings. But it's becoming a more and more competitive space as the mobile consumer market grows and more publishing businesses are putting their focus on their digital strategy. Managing Director Peter Holder knows all about that. He's previously headed Bauer's joint publications with Hearst Media International, also been founding editor of various other publications, including GQ, Men's Style and launch editor for Sydney Confidential. He joins us in the studio now. Peter, great to have your company on the show.
Thanks for having me. Make me feel old.
Yeah. Well, there you go. After a long career in print, particularly magazines, I guess, as we were saying, you know all about that. Have you abandoned the print sector for digital now, do you think?
Look, I'm still a fan of print. I'm not going to suddenly change tack and say I'm suddenly all digital, but I will say this, that it's great to be working for a business that is purely a digital offering. It cuts out a lot of problems, and it's certainly a dynamic business, and I'm seriously rapt to be a part of it.
Why the Daily Mail? I guess you've sort of worked.
Why did they hire me? Or?
But what sort of interests you about them? I mean, you've had a bit of a tabloid background working at SydCon, so you obviously know that it's a good popular, and they fill a popular place in the market. Do you like reaching out to a big audience? Is that one of the attractions?
I'm an ego. I like to get to a big audience. But look, I think, put simply, James, it was the two bosses I had, Martin Clark, the man who started it all, and more locally, David Gingell, truly believe that content is king. And something I struggled with in previous jobs, where that was often trotted out as a saying, but it was a hollow saying. These guys truly believe it. That's their commitment. We're going to, it's a great offering, and it is a tabloid offering in some respects. And I get off on the fact that I'm sitting in a newsroom again, and you get that buzz because there's always
the
something
live
going.
action.
Yeah, there's always something going on, and there's just that hum that I realise I forgot how much I missed it. Really, having worked in newspapers sort of 15, 16 years ago now.
Tell us a bit about the Daily Mail operation here in Australia, because your competitors paint it largely as an aggregation business. Tell us your views.
Well, everyone aggregates. That's the thing I find a little bit ridiculous in this argument. But I can safely say we've got seriously dedicated journalists in there chasing stories. We've broken stories. We're part of that news cycle. We're contributing to it. I'm not going to get too caught up in that argument. It's just something we're always going to wear, because I think our competitors know we're a threat, and that's a great compliment. I wish them all the best, but we're here to there is investment in news creation, so we're not 100% aggregating content. That's just an out-and-out sledge.
Peter, look, many publishers are also jumping into the digital lifestyle space. Some of them perhaps too late. Some are in there a bit earlier. Is that an area the Daily Mail's into? Yeah,
no, we're definitely growing that. We've just appointed a female, that's FEMAIL, get the
branded,
which is a successful part of the business globally. We've just appointed an editor for that, Andrea McGrath, and she's building a team around her. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely, that's a big part of it, and that's an area that I have some experience in too. So we're working hard to build the engagement, and then obviously attract the advertisers along with that.
Well, on that, in terms of monetising that, will there ever be a paywall or a premium content in terms of monetising that big audience?
Look, in my lifetime at Daily Mail, I can safely say no. I think it's all about scale and volume. I think to put up a paywall, you've got to be maybe a little bit higher end in broadsheet terms, to use a newspaper. I think it works for New York Times and things like that. Yeah. But we want eyeballs, and I think that horse is bolted to put a paywall on. People just won't pay for it. They'll find it elsewhere. So we're committed to giving them great content for free, but we won't be giving our ads away for free. That's a given.
So no paywall. 100% revenue from the advertising, your partnerships and that. Does that come into your role much, looking after that? And do you have your own sales team, or do you share resources with part of Nine Entertainment?
Yes, and yes. So we have a big part of my remit is to work with the sales team. Luke McElveen, our editor, reports directly into Martin Clark. I'm there as a sort of someone to bounce off, given my journalistic background, but he pretty much runs that race and deals with Martin. My big part of my job is to build the awareness in market and build a sales team. So yeah, we have a sales team already, but we're growing it, and they work with and separate to, on occasion, with the MI9 sales team. So we've got a lot of people out there pushing the brand.
And we know how important mobile has become, obviously, with the digital strategy. How much of your audience is engaging on mobile, and is it hard to get ads to these people?
Look, I think that's a really good question. Yes, we are very much a mobile brand. We're desktop and tablet as well, but we're seeing big numbers growing in that area. I think we need to do a lot more work in the mobile space. I think everyone does in this market, but we certainly that's a big focus for me, and it's one that Messrs. Clark and Gingell will be all over me about. So yeah, no, that's a big focus for sure.
Now, you've just been back. You've done some time at head office, I think, in London.
Yep.
You went to was it a sales conference?
We went to a sales conference in Dublin, me and a few of my colleagues, and that was great. Piers Morgan was there. Okay. He did a great online interview with Martin Sorrell, who was in London. Yeah, and the great thing for me was I'd only been in the job for about 3 weeks, so it was good to actually get to meet them all pretty quickly. And the great thing is that they're all working together. The sales teams in the UK are working with the US people, and they're working with us as well. So there's a big exchange of ideas. Some of our people presented to them, and we encourage them to take some learnings from how we present. I think, and we're a bit of a sponge in learning, stuff from them, a lot of stuff from them.
Can you tell us a bit more about your relationship with Nine and I guess how that works as well, given the fact that, we've got the new streaming service Stan, how do you sort of incorporate that into your strategy?
Oh, okay, maybe that's for another time. I can certainly say that with Nine, we're working closely with them. We're even building a studio in our offices at Australia Square, so we can be connected to Nine programs. Today Show, mornings, the afternoon show, a current affair on occasion. So it's very hard for us to leave the office because we're committed to that 24/7 news cycle. So, but we're going to be building our brand and exchanging, helping them when we can in sort of making their news offering sort of better than it already is.
Is there a bit of internal competition at all? I mean, do you compete with, because they've got, 9news.com.au now, they push pretty hard. There's still a 9 MSN news product as well, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was going to get easy quick. Look, but competition's healthy. It's there's no one's threatening to knock each other's block off. But yes, there is a certain, everyone's competing for the same exclusive, same edge, if you like, same audience. There is competition, but it's not hostile.
So aspirations, next step for Daily Mail Australia?
Well, I didn't join for it to stay at number 4, and if you spend any time with Martin Clark and David Gingill, they don't want it to stay at number 4. So we want to be number 1, there's no question. And in the shorter term, just increase the awareness of the brand. I think we've had an exceptional 12 months of launch, but there's no laurels to be rested on. We've got to keep going.
All right, Peter, we will have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Peter Holder there, MD of Daily Mail Australia. We're going to take a quick break on Media Week. Coming up next, though, we'll look at the TV ratings for week 14. Plus, Presto sees a boost in subscribers around the Easter break. We'll bring you details next.